POV videos like this have been getting millions of views, and so I've decided to create my own team of AI agents to help me do so, and today I'm going to teach you how you can do it too. So let's check out how my agent team actually works. To start off, my idea agent will come up with a new idea and send it to me via Telegram. And once I've approved it, it will actually call all of the other agents to help me create the video. It will start off by asking the scenes agent to create the scenes for me. And then from there, it will actually trigger the image agent to use these different scenes to create the images for me. And then you'll pass it to the video agent to create the videos for me. And then you pass it to the sound effects agent to create the sound effects for me. And lastly, you pass to the render video agent to render the video for me. And once this is done, all I have to do is to go into Airtable, and all my files are being stored over here. And all I gotta do is to change the status to ready to upload. And then from here, it will actually trigger my Reels publishing agent to help me publish to YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram at one go. And the end result will look something like this. Check this out. Alright, and all of this is generated by my team of agents. You can see it's also published onto Facebook, as well as it's published onto YouTube as well. Amazing, isn't it? And so I'm going to run through with you a full workflow of how you can actually build this too, and you can actually see how each part of it actually works. So without further ado, let's get right into it. To start off, as you can see over here on n8n, you can see each of my agents are actually separated into different sections, but each of them will actually work independently of one another. And so you can see like how the idea agent will work first, and then it will actually trigger the scenes agent to do its work, and then the image agent to do its work. Now the reason why I make this workflow modular is because it's easy to scale it on later on, where you can actually detect the different problems in each of these different components without having to restart the whole workflow altogether once again. Now, if you've seen other tutorials online, they actually combine the whole workflow together, where they generate the whole process in one specific system. Now, the problem about that is that when there's an error, you have to restart the whole workflow from scratch. But the great thing about doing it modular like me is that whenever there's an error between each of these specific agents, I can actually fix them one by one, and I don't have to repeat them all together. Now, the next other cool part about this workflow is that each of these files are also stored onto Airtable, and so you can actually modify each component step by step if you do not like it. For example, I can review the scenes over here, and if I do not like the scenes that I have created, I do not like the different quotes, I can actually make the agent change this specific part before I move on to the next. And I can check out the different images that I've created as well, and I can see if I actually like them or I do not like them. And then I can also check out the different images as well over here, and I can regenerate this component or the video or the sound effects as well. So I can actually modify each component separately. And this makes this whole process a lot more scalable, and I can actually use this for other different workflows as well. So not to worry, we're going to run through every single part of it today so you can build it too. And you can download the resources link in the description below to follow along more effectively as well. Now, of course, if you really want to go more in depth into AI agents, I am building a community where we'll dive deeper into AI agent topics, as well as a full n8n AI agent master course where we're going to go through everything that you need to know about n8n to help you build production-ready AI agents. On top of that, we also have weekly live calls and tech support to really go more in depth into building the AI agents for your own specific use case. So if you're interested, do sign up to the waitlist link in the description below. Alright, now let's start off with the very first part of our workflow. We're going to start off by creating our Airtable first, as this will be the base to help us store every single information that we need for this workflow. So in Airtable, we have to create a new base, and in this new base, we will have 5 different tables over here. Okay, the first one will be the POV main, which is where we're going to store the bulk of everything and is the overview of our whole video. The first field we're going to have here is name. So this will be a single line text, and this is for us to store the name of the video that we want to create. The second one is the concept, and so you want to use a long text field over here. The third will be theme, and so this would be a single line text as well. The fourth would be tone and mood, which is a single line text which showcases the tone and mood of our video. And then for this next 4 fields, I'm going to show you how you can create them in a short bit. Now for a POV view, how do we actually create this, right? All you're going to do is to click into tone and mood, and we're going to insert right, and then we're going to choose link to another record. Okay, from here, we're going to create a new table, and then we're going to name this table POV scenes as well over here, and POV scenes over here as well. And because I've already created this, so I will not be creating this, But once you have created this field, you actually create a new table over here called POV scenes, which will be linked to the main table. And so you're going to do the same thing for POV image, videos, as well as the sound effects, right? And once you have created all 4 of these different fields, you will have 4 more tables over here, which you're going to add in some other information later on, okay? From here, we're going to have another field called final render video. This will be a URL field, and this is where we're going to store the URL of our final video. And then we're going to have a status field over here. This will be a single select. And over here, I'm going to have a couple of selections. The first one is pending. The second is scenes generated. The third is image generated. The fourth is video generated. Fifth, sound effects generated. Materials upload, ready to upload, and completed. And so, why is this super important, right? Firstly, when my idle agent creates a new idle for me, it will actually update the information on the Airtable and set the new field to pending, right? And this will be used to trigger the scenes agent to create the scenes, and similarly it will then trigger the other agents bit by bit down the line, and this will be the main thing on how we can actually trigger these different agents to work for us. From there, we also want to have 3 more drop down fields. The first is Instagram, the second is Facebook, and the third is YouTube. This is for us to know when the video has been uploaded. So when it's uploaded onto YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, it will then have the status set as uploaded, and then the status here will be then converted into completed. And then for this field, we only need to have 1, which is uploaded. Lastly, we need 3 more fields over here. So the next one is created time. So just have to search for created time over here, and then from there is last modified time. We just have to search for last modified time over here. And one last one is the record ID. Now the record ID is super important in this whole workflow because we're going to use the record ID as the main reference point to make sure we link the correct files to the correct area. So just open this up and you want to search for a formula and you want to type in record underscore ID bracket, and this will help you create the record ID over here automatically. Now let's go into the second table. Over here in the second table, we will need to have a scene number as the first one. So let's open this up. This is a number field, okay? You can search for a number field over here, and then we're going to set the decimal place to 0. Okay, save this, and then same thing here. We're going to have a description for each of these different scenes, and these can be a long text field. And then over here, you want to connect this to POV main. So this is a link to another record field, and then we can just keep it as allow linking to multiple records. Next up, we have POV images, which is also linked to POV images. You can just leave this, and then this one will be POV SFX. You just have to link to POV SFX. Alright, moving down, POV images, we just also have to have the scene number field, the image prompt field, the image URL field, and then same thing, link to the other 3 fields as well. POV video, the same thing here, scene number, video prompt, which is a long text field, video URL, and then link to POV main and POV images. Lastly, for the sound effects, scene number, the prompt, the URL, link to POV main and POV scenes. So that's how I roughly set up this Airtable, but you can also just copy and paste from my template. Before we move on to n8n to create our agents, we just have to create a couple more things over here on Airtable. We're going to go into automations, and these we're going to create 6 different automations to be used as a trigger point for us to automate our workflow. Okay, we're going to start with the first one, and then roughly for the next few, it will actually be sort of similar. Alright, first we're going to start out by creating a trigger when a record matches conditions. Okay, we're going to open this. And then on the left side, you can actually see over here, there's a configuration. We're going to choose the table to be POV main, right? This is for us to know that POV main will be the trigger point for this specific automation. We're going to set a condition to when status is pending and name is not empty. So to do so, you just have to add a condition and you just have to select, like name, you can select is not empty over here, okay? And that's how you do it. So you can delete the last one because we don't need this. So you can see what does this actually do, right? This is for us to use as a trigger point to trigger each of our agents later on. So you can see the very first one, I've named it generate scenes over here. And to generate a new scene, what I have to do is to trigger my scenes agent once the status is set to pending and the name is not empty. You can look over here, right? If you go into POV main, once my idea agent has created a name, concept, theme, tone, and mood for me, it will also set the status to pending. Right, and this is where we can actually use this to trigger our POV scenes agent. All you gotta do next is create an action. So you want to click plus and you want to search for run a script. Okay, run script over here. Okay, opening this up from the side, I'm going to click edit code. You can see over here, I've actually keyed in this code that I've created. So just to run through with you what this actually means, you want to actually trigger the webhook from n8n. So you can see over here for each of my agent, there is a webhook created at the start of it. So what I've done here is to actually add in the specific webhook link to actually trigger the different agent. So when you're actually building this, each time you create a new webhook, you do have to just update this specific code over here, and it will actually trigger the specific agent that you want to call. Okay, and so what I have is let webhook URL equals to this specific webhook over here, and then the rest you can just copy and paste from my template, and this should be good to go. And then on the left hand side, you want to have two inputs. The first one you want to have is record ID, and we're going to link it to our Airtable record ID. All you're going to do is to click plus and search for Airtable record ID over here and enter that. The second input is name, so you just have to click plus and then you just have to search for name and click this, and you should be good to go. Once it's done, you want to set up the automation for the rest as well. You just have to duplicate this like 5 times and then change the name to generate images, generate videos, generate SFX, render video, publish video. The only difference for each of them is that the webhook URL is different because we want to trigger different agents, and that's all you got to do for each of them. The only difference is that the webhook URL is different because each URL will be used to trigger different agents, as well as when a record matches conditions, the condition is different. For example, for generate images, the status will set it as scenes generated, and the POV scenes is not empty. For POV videos, we want to set it as status is image generated, POV images is not empty. For SFX, we want to set it as when status is video generated and POV videos is not empty. Render video is also the same. When status is SFX generated and POV SFX is not empty, POV scenes is not empty, the videos are not empty as well. Okay, and then for published video, we want to make sure status is ready to upload and final render video is not empty. Now, once this is set up, we are pretty much good to go for Airtable. We're going to come back later on to show you how you can actually link the webhook to each of these automations. Alright? Okay, now let's go into n8n and see how we can actually build our agents. Okay, we're going to start off with the very first agent, which is the ideal agent. So what I want to do with the ideal agent is that I want to have an ideal agent to generate ideas for me that is suitable for a POV style video. I want it to send the videos to me on a daily basis so that I can actually approve or disapprove, and then from there you actually call the other different agents to generate the videos for me. Okay, we're going to start off with a schedule trigger node, and then we can choose the interval of when it is going to run for us. Okay, for now I'm going to set it as 1 day. So once this is live, every single day it will actually schedule a new idea and send it to Telegram for me. The next one, I'm going to create my POV daily idea agent. So I'm going to search for the AI agent node, and I'm going to use this to create this specific node. For the model, I'm going to use Queen, and so to use Queen, I've actually used something called Open Router. So just have to go into openrouter.ai, where I just have to create an account and put in some credits over here, and then you want to get your API keys. And what's cool about Open Router is you can connect to many different models with this single specific API. So I want to make sure that this first AI that I'm using support tools, and so I'm going to click this tool button over here, and I'm just going to look through all of this, and I actually like the Queen model, so I'm going to search for Queen. And this is where I'm going to find the Queen model over here. I want to use Queen 2.572b instruct. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to go back to n8n, and using the Open Router node, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to type in the model as what I've copied, and I'm going to connect my credentials, the Open Router key, which is where you can get from the API key over here in your settings. Go into keys, and you should have your API keys over here. Alright. And then also we want our agent to be able to connect to our Airtable as well, right? So you want to set up the Airtable credential. All you got to do is go to airtable.com/create tokens, create a new token, right? You want to give it the scope, data record read, data records write, and schema base read. Okay, once you have these 3 scopes, you want to make sure to give it access to the base that we have created. So I've named this base POV content, so I make sure that this is given to it. Okay, once this is done, you will get an access token. And I have to go back to n8n, open Airtable node up, go into credentials, and then you want to create a new credential and type in your access token over here. And then from there, you can be able to access everything from Airtable later on. Okay, and so for this Airtable node that I've connected to this agent, I've connected it through the to function, right? I'm going to click plus, search for Airtable, okay? And then I'm going to set the operation to search. The base will be POV content, the table will be POV main, okay? As the POV main will be over here, right? That's where we have POV main. Okay, and then that's all we got to do. This allows the agent to search the Airtable for records. Now, why do we do so is because we want the agent to first search the Airtable for the existing records, so it will not actually create a repeated story for us, and it will create something different from the ones that is created on this specific field over here, okay? And so how do I actually instruct it to do so? We're going to open up this specific node. Okay, in this agent node, we're going to set the source for prompt defined below, And then the prompt, I'm going to tell it, please generate a new unique POV content idea following the instruction and return in JSON format. For the system message, if I open this up, I actually gave it a role, task, and the exact instructions that it needs to do for us. So I told it that it's a POV daily idea agent responsible for generating fresh, highly engaging, and viral POV content ideas for social media. I also give it some tasks to fetch existing ideas, firstly, using the search Airtable tool to retrieve the current ideas and ensure that the generated idea is completely unique and does not duplicate any of the existing entries. And then from there, it will generate a new idea for us. And then lastly, I ask it to output in JSON format. Now, throughout this whole video, I'll use a lot of JSON format. And why is this important is because JSON format allows me to actually separate the fields so they can map them differently. Right? For example, if you look over here, we have name, concept, theme, tone, and mood. Right? Each of them are different fields that we're going to map separately and not as one specific single line text. And so by using a JSON format, it will actually help me create the answers in 4 different fields so that I can actually map them into Airtable. Okay? So name, concept, theme, tone, and mood. That's what we have over here. And then one way I like to also make sure that my AI agents understand what do I want, I always give it examples, and it's something called few shot prompting, which is used to give the agent some idea of what you want so they understand how to create output closer to your ideal output. I give it some examples of POV ideas that I thought would be interesting, inclusive of the concept, theme, tone, and mood, and I give it a total of 3 examples. Once this is done, I will click require specific output format. I'm going to click back, and I'm going to connect it to a structured output parser. Open this up, and you can see over here I set this JSON example, name, concept, theme, tone, and mood, so that the output results will be exactly what we want. So let's click play and see how this works. Okay, perfect. Now that it's done, let's open this up, and you can see over here the output is actually in 4 different fields: the name, the concept, the theme, and then the tone and mood. So that is wonderful for us to actually use for our Airtable later on. The next thing I want to do over here is that if you see from my Telegram, I want it to actually send me the information, and then from there I want to decide if I want to accept or decline. And so we're going to use something called human in the loop, where we actually approve the agent before it moves on to the next step. And so I'm going to use a Telegram node to do so. Now to create your Telegram node, you do have to create the Telegram bot first. And so to create a Telegram bot, you do have to go into bot father, okay, and then you have to type /new bot to create a new bot. And once you've done so, you will have an API key from bot father, and you're going to copy that to use for your specific bot. From there, if this is your first time using the Telegram bot, you do want to get the chat ID. So what you're going to do is to click plus over here. We're going to search for Telegram, click into this, and we want to find triggers, okay? And then we're going to click into on message. Right, we're going to connect your credentials over here. So like I said, you want to add in the API key. Okay, once this is done, we want to test this step. This for us to get the chat ID. We're going to go into Telegram, and we're just going to give it a message like hi. Okay, and you can see over here we do have the output here. So we want to copy this chat ID, which is important for us to use for our Telegram. Okay, click back, and we can actually delete this trigger now. Okay, next up we're going to add in this specific node called send and wait message. So you have to search Telegram, click into this. You do have a send message and wait for response node. You want to use this for a human in the loop. Open this up, okay, and we're going to make sure that the chat ID is the one that we have found earlier, and this will be the chat ID for our specific bot. Okay, the credentials make sure to be connected, resources message, operation send, and wait for response. Okay, from here I'm going to give it a message. So to make it fun and interesting, you can see if I execute the previous node, I do have all the information over here, right? I'm going to click expression. I'm going to open this up. I'm going to make it the exact format that I want. So I'm going to start off with something fun like, hey boss, here's your fresh POV video idea for the day. Hit me with your thoughts. I'm going to give it title, concept, theme, and tone. And this is what I want to see on my end to see if I want to approve this idea or not. And so I'm going to drag over each of these fields from here. Drag over name, and you have name over here. Same for the rest. Drag over concept, paste this in. Drag over theme, paste this in. Tone and mood, drag it over as well. And this should give you the output that looks like this. And so this is something that the Telegram bot will actually send to me with the final title of the idea, the concept, the theme, and the tone. Okay, click close. And then from there, we're going to go down and we're going to choose response type, which is approval. Okay, and the type of approval will be approve and disapprove. Okay, and once this is done, we're going to click play. Okay, you can see we do have the new idea sent to us. All right, very cool. If I click decline, it actually go into false, and then you can see over here, it actually look back and create a new idea for me. Right, if I actually click approve, it actually send to true. Right, so for now, we're just gonna click approve, and then we're gonna continue the rest of the workflow first. Okay, open this up and close this. Right, coming back to the n8n platform, you can see over here, once it's approved, you can see the data output is approved as true. What I'll do next is to create a if node. Okay, I'm gonna open this up, and I'm gonna set the conditions. If JSON data approved is true, it will actually be set as true, and then you'll move on and trigger the whole workflow. Now, if it's not true, it will actually repeat and give me a new idea again. So I'm going to start off with showing you the decline path, right? The next node I want to create in a decline path is another send message node, where the Telegram will actually send me this text. Something funny like, oof, that one didn't hit the mark, huh? No worry, boss. Bring up a brand new idea for you as we speak. So essentially, this makes it more conversational and more fun for us to connect with our agents. And from there, what I'm going to do is set a wait node. And so I created this so that it actually triggers the Telegram to restart this workflow again. If not, sometimes it might not actually re-trigger the workflow to give us a new idea. You go back to POV Daily Idea Agent, and it will ask us for this new idea again. So let me just show you how this exactly works. We're going to restart this workflow again, test workflow over here. Open this up. You can see there is a new idea that's sent to us. And if you click decline, open this up, close this, let's go back. You can see now it's waiting for 5 seconds, and it will re-trigger the agent again to give us a new idea so that we can decide if we want it or not. Alright, so you can see the new idea has been created over here. And this time if we click approve, it will actually send it to Airtable for us. So if I click approve, open this up, let's close this. Let's go back to Airtable. Once it's approved, you can see it's actually completed this two specific node. Right, so let's open this. This is also a send message node, and we set it as a text for approval. Right, you got legendary taste, boss. Your POV video is locked in. That one's gonna be a banger. Stay tuned. Right, so you can see Telegram actually send us this specific text, and once this text is sent to us, it will actually update the Airtable and create a new record for us. And so let me just run through this node for you first, and I'll show you the Airtable. For this specific node, you want to have an Airtable node, and the operation will be create a new record. Okay, the base ID would be from your Airtable. You can use by URL or you can use by ID. And to find the ID, all you gotta do is to go back, go into Airtable node over here. Right, you can see over here, you can actually choose from the list, but if you want the ID, if you click expression, you will get the ID, and you can copy this over. Okay. And from here, we want to make sure it's mapped to each column manually. We want to drag over the output that we have created, that we've approved. So if you look at the previous output from the Delay Agent, you just have to drag over the name to the name section, the concept to the concept section, and same for theme and tone and mood. Copy all of this over, and then we want to set the status to pending. And this will allow us to create a new field over here in Airtable with the name, the concept, the theme, and the tone and mood. And the status is set to pending. And remember, like what we said, we have created our very first automation here, generate scenes to trigger the next workflow. Alright. And so there we have it. We have our very first agent created, the POV Idea Agent. And now we're going to move on to the Scenes Agent to generate the scenes for us. Alright, now coming back to the Scenes Agent over here, you can see the first node we're going to create is a webhook node. Right, just have a click plus, search for webhook, and you will have something like this. Okay. We're going to open this up. And we're going to find the URL over here. We're going to set the HTTP method to post. Okay. And we're going to copy this specific link. We're going to go back to our Airtable. We're going to go into our automations. And for generate scenes, remember the code we have created. We're going to open this up. We're going to paste in the link over here for the webhook. Finish editing. And later when we test this step, it will actually test the action for our workflow. Okay. Go back to n8n, we're going to create the rest of the workflow first. The next node I'm going to create is a get video idea node, which is a search record node. Open this up. So what I want to do is to go and search for POV content, POV main, and I want to filter by formula status equals to pending. I want to search for the fields that the status is equals to pending so that we can actually create the scenes for it. From here, we'll click back, and then we're going to have a if node. Okay, this if node, we're going to set the JSON status equals to pending. Right, how do we get this JSON status? Let me execute previous node to show you how that works. You go over here, you can see the status over here, drag this over and paste this in. Okay, once this is done, click back, and this is where we're going to create our POV scenes agent to generate the scenes for us. This time I'm going to use a large language model chain. So just have to search LLM and click into basic LLM chain. Alright. Open this up. I'm going to give it a prompt, both a user message as well as a system message. Okay, for a user message, we're going to open this up, execute previous node. Okay, open this up. You can see this is where we're going to give the agent the input from us. Right, so we're going to type, here is a POV idea, and I'm going to put in the name, which will be the name from the Airtable, the concept also from the Airtable, theme, as well as the tone and mood. I'll drag this over, and I'll tell it, please generate a new set of 7 scene description based on this idea following the instructions provided. So for what I want from my videos, I've set it to 7 scenes for each of the video. Okay, I'm going to open this up, and we're going to have a system message. So the role is a scenes creation agent. The task is to use the input, which is name, concept, theme, and tone and mood that we have given it, and to generate the scenes for us. Over here, this is what actually makes your video really different from others, is that you can give it different instructions according to what you desire. Right, for example, for the scenes that I want to generate, I told it that the scene 1 should be longer, starting with the word POV, and set in the tone of the video. Right, scene 2 to 7 must be short captions less than 7 to 10 words that continue the narrative. So based on what you actually want, you can actually change the prompts over here, and this is why prompt engineering is actually quite important to create different results for your AI agent. Okay, from here, the output, we have left it here as JSON scene, 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 scene. So there's a total of 7 different scenes that we want to use for our workflow. And over here, I do have some examples, right? The idea, and then there's 7 different scenes created, 3 different examples for it to use as reference. Okay, and that's all we need to do. Click back, and we should be good to go. Same thing, require specific output format. Click back. You want to add a structured output parser over here, and then I will set the output to be 7 different scenes because that's what I want it to do for us. Okay. Same thing here, the model, I'll connect it to Open Router, and I'll use Queen as well, and that's all we got to do. All right, and let's click play to see what happens. Okay, open this up. You can see the output has created 7 different scenes for us. So we have 1 POV waking up to the vast, unforgiving desert landscape, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, and all of this is for our specific video. Perfect. Once this is done, I'm going to create another node called split out. And what I want to do is to actually store them individually into my Airtable. You can see over here, the final results will be something like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And look into POV scenes. I will have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, each of them in a separate field, right? And so we're going to create a split out node. We're going to select the field to split out, which will be output, drag this and paste this over, okay? And then we don't need to include any other field. Test step, and you can see we have 7 items now ready to be added into our Airtable. We're going to create the next node, which is loop over item, and we set the batch size to 7, okay? And then we're just going to go into the next one, under loop, and then from loop, we're going to connect it to edit field. Okay, we're going to set the manual mapping, scene number equals to item index plus 1. But what this means is that each time the scene passes through, it will actually set a scene number for us, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, so that we're going to have this specific number over here that we can use as reference point later on. Okay, then the description, we just want to set it as json.scene. So if I execute a previous node, I want a description to be the scenes over here. Drag it over from loop over item, and this allows us to have each of these individual description sent over to Airtable. All right, and then of course you want to store the scenes into Airtable, right? So open this up. If I execute a previous node, I want to have the value to send, which is scene number, description, and the POV main is important because this is where we want to make sure it's set to the correct record. So if you go back to Airtable, you can see over here that scene number is quite straightforward, the description is quite straightforward. But POV main is important because we want it to be set to this specific video and not any other video, right? So how we're going to find that is if you look into the first node we have created in this agent, right? We do have the record ID over here. We're going to drag this and paste this over. Okay, after pasting this over, you want to make sure to add a bracket. You can see over here, the square bracket over here on the outside. Okay, after adding this square bracket, you actually change this to an array. And an array is required for you to actually link it to the Airtable record. But once you're done with that, every time you add in the field, it will then be connected to this specific field for this specific video. And all of them will actually be linked, so it's easier for you to organize them. And lastly, you want to create a update Airtable node. Okay, from here, we're going to set the table to update. And all we're going to do for this is just to update the status to scenes generated. Similarly, ID would be from the POV main, the JSON field, which is the record ID for our specific workflow over here. Okay, and this helps us update this status to scenes generated. So to show you how the webhook actually works, I'm going to click test workflow over here. Okay, and this is now set to off, but once I set it to on, it will actually automatically run without having to test it. But since we're testing it out, I'm going to click test action. Okay, and if you go back to this workflow over here, you can see it actually triggered this scenes agent to create the scenes for us, right? And this is triggered from the Airtable over here, right? So let's go back to n8n to see how this works. You can see it's running now, creating each of these different scenes and storing them into Airtable. If I go back to data, you can see each of these scenes is generated for us 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the status is updated to scenes generated. Perfect. And you can see this is completed. So there we have it, our scenes agent is created. And then moving on, the steps are actually pretty much similar. From here, the scenes agent will now trigger the image agent to generate the image for us. Now let's move down to the image agent and see how this works. Similarly, we want to use a webhook node again. Copy this link, and this time it will be pasted into the second automation here. Generate images, run a script, open this code up, and you want to make sure this link is added in. Okay, and you want to make sure the status, like I've mentioned, is scenes generated and POV scenes is not empty, and this will be the trigger for our image agent. Same thing, get scenes is similar to the scenes agent over here. We want to get the record from the Airtable. Okay, when you use the if node, if the scenes are already generated, right, you actually move on with the specific workflow. Okay, so we're going to click play and see what happens. Okay, you can take a look. This should be running because it's correct. Okay, I'm going to go into the next one. Open this up, and this is where we're going to get the data from the scenes table this time, because we're going to use the scenes to generate the images for us. So test step, and then we'll have the output over here, which will be all the 7 different scenes that we have created. Okay, and then from here we're going to close this. Same thing, split the scenes. We're going to drag over the scenes and paste this in so that we can actually split all of these different scenes over here. You can see now the scenes actually set as a record ID for each of them. So we actually want to retrieve the scenes from our Airtable over here, right? So that we can use for our image generation. Okay, test this step. And then we should have 7 items over here. And then from there, we're going to loop the scenes. And then we're going to retrieve the scenes over here. Okay, so loop is the same, batch size 1. And if you click retrieve scenes over here, you can see now you actually retrieve each of the description for each of the scene. So we're going to run through them one by one in this workflow. Right? Imagine we take the first scene, we're going to pass it through our AI agent. Okay, and then it's going to run through this whole process, and then it's going to give us the first prompt and the first image over here. And then same thing is going to continue running until it gets us 7 images for all the 7 different scenes. Now let's rename this to image agent. All right. Okay, perfect. Okay, we're gonna have LM chain over here. Open this up. You can see the prompt, the user message. You can kind of see the similarity already. So I give it the POV scenes, a scene description, which would be from here, the description, paste this in. The theme would be from the first Airtable node, all the way down. Right, the concept, the theme over here, the tone and mood. Right, so I actually give this agent the scene, the theme, as well as the tone to help us generate a image prompt to depict this specific scene in a POV manner. Okay, I'm gonna go down to the system message, open this up. I'll give it some instructions as well. Right, the role this time is image prompt creation agent. The task will be using the provided input, craft a concise prompt. Right, under 50 words that instructs the AI to produce an image with a clear first-person perspective. And from there, we want to emphasize first-person POV. Right, indicate visible body parts like your hands, your arms, and feet to really create that first-person POV experience. The input, once again, scene description, theme, tone, and mood. The output will be returned in a JSON format as well. So we want one individual prompt as the output and want to pass it to Airtable directly. Examples over here, you can see if I give it this input for the first scene, like entering a dimly lit dust-filled room with ancient archives, the prompt would be something like first-person view of entering a dim, dust-filled archive room. A hand reaches for ancient scrolls under soft lantern light, evoking mystery and legacy. So this is sort of like a prompt that we're going to use for image generation. And 3 more examples over here, and we're good to go. Perfect. And same thing, required specific output format to make sure that the output is in the format that we want. Go into this, and this is the format in the structured output parser. Okay. All right, and we're gonna play this to see what we get. Okay, perfect. You can see the prompt has been created and generated for us. Right now, we're gonna go into generating the images. And so for generating the images, I'm going to use a image model called Flux, and this can be found on Replicate. So just going to go into replicate.com over here, right? You want to make sure you have your API keys created. You're going to have some tokens connected as well. Okay. Once this is done, you're going to go into Replicate. You're going to look for Flux 1.1 Pro, and this is the model I'm going to use for image generation. And this costs about 4 cents per image. So pretty okay, pretty affordable, and it's pretty good as well. Okay, we're going to use this specific model to generate all our images for our scenes. And so to do so, we're going to go into API, and we're going to find HTTP, and we'll look for this cur. And this cur is what we're going to use to connect the API to our n8n agent. Okay, copy this, right? Go back to n8n. We're going to use this HTTP request a lot to connect to any external models from here on out. Okay, open this up. We're going to just import cur over here. Paste this in, the cur we have found from Replicate over here. All right, and then once this is done, you should get something like this. The method is set to post. URL will be the URL for the image model. Okay, and then for authentication, what I like to do is actually create a header auth instead of using the send header authentication. So I actually remove the header authentication over here. I'm going to go into authentication. I'm going to click generic credential type. I'm going to choose header auth, okay, and then I'm going to click into header auth over here, create a new credential. I'm going to type in replicate, okay. The name, if you go back to replicate, you can see is authorization, right? We're going to copy the specific syntax for the API. Okay, go back to n8n, paste this in, and then the value, if you go back to replicate, would be bearer replicate API token. Go back to n8n, paste this in, click expression to see, and this is where you're going to type in your API token over here. Now this is a great method so that we can actually reuse the authentication for all the HTTP requests later on without having to always retype them again. So just type in your API over here, click save, and you should be good to go. You will have a replicate header auth, and then you have the authentication connected over here. Okay, below send headers, you just have to follow exactly. Using fields below, the name will be prefer, the value is weight, send body, the body type is JSON, specific body using JSON, and this is where we actually have the input for generating the images. So if I open this up, over here you can see this from the API from Replicate, right? The prompt would be the prompt that we use for the image generation. Prompt upsampling, we can leave it as true. Aspect ratio, because we want it to be a real, we're going to set it as 9:16. Okay, you drag this over from prompt and paste this in, and you should get a prompt sent over. So essentially you can see the result is a preview of what's going to be sent. You can see this is the prompt that we have created, and this is what the image generator is going to get to generate the image for us. Okay, once this is done, we can just test this step, and then we can see the image being generated for us. Okay, perfect. You can see it has actually run perfectly for us. So if you go back to Replicate and you open up your dashboard again, you can see this new image have been generated for us. Open this up. It's actually generated an image for us. Okay, perfect. Going back to the n8n platform, press back. Image has been generated. Now we need to download it, upload it, and update Airtable so we can get the image over here, right? So we're going to go back to n8n. The next node is the HTTP request node again. This time we're going to set it as get. And then we're going to drag over the URL from the previous node. We're going to drag over output over here and paste this in. Okay, that's how you get the URL. And that's all you need to do. Test step. Okay, and you should have the image being downloaded over here. Perfect. And then what we're going to do is to create a Google Drive upload so that we can actually store all of these images without them disappearing on us. What I should do is to go into Google Drive, and I've created all of these different folders for all my different files, right? The POV image for image files, POV videos, POV music, POV voiceovers, POV sound effects, and POV render, right? And so what I want to do is to make sure that this is set to share. Make sure that anyone with the link can actually view this. This allows us to be able to use this for our workflow later on. Once I've created all these folders, I'm going to go back to n8n. Okay, from here, I'm going to upload the scene to images. I'm going to create a Google Drive node. Right, search for Google Drive. And then we're going to look for upload file. Okay. And of course, we need to connect it to our Google credentials. So I'm going to go into Google Cloud Console. Okay, you want to create a new OAuth 2.0 client ID. And you want to connect your credentials. Make sure that Google Drive API has been set up. Okay. So make sure this is enabled, right? Once this is enabled, you're going to go back, create a new credential, click OAuth client ID. Okay, you're going to search for web application, give it a name, and you're going to authorize the redirect URL to your n8n platform, right? So if I'm using it on a local basis, if I open this up, if I try to create a new credential, I just have to copy my OAuth redirect URL over here, go back to Cloud Console, add the URL over here. And once I create this, I should get the API keys for me to connect. I just have to key in the client ID over here, and then I key in the client secret over here. Okay, and you should be good to go. All right. And then you're going to set the operation to upload. The input data field would be data. All right. The operation will be upload. Okay, then the file name, right? This is where I want to give it a specific file name that I can use as reference. I'm going to go back to schema over here. I'm going to give the file name, which is the name of the video, and I'm going to give it a number. So I'm going to drag over the name of the video here, paste this in, okay. And I'll get the name of the video. And then for the number, I'm going to choose from the previous node. Let's see, the scene number. I'm going to paste this in. So I'll have like video name, scene 1, video name 2, video name 3, 4, 5. So it's easy for me to reference them later on, all right. Okay, once this is done, click back. You also want to update the image into Airtable as well. We're going to create a new POV image table over here, right? So we're going to choose the base, map them manually. The image prompt, we just have to drag over all of them. So the download images over here, image URL would be JSON web content link. So we're going to test this step over here. Okay, once it's done, we're going to update the Airtable as well. So you can see we do have all the reference link to drag over. For the Airtable, we're going to create a new field in the POV image tab over here, right? So what we're going to have is the image prompt would be from the image prompt over here. Right, we have the image prompt over here. Drag this and paste this in. Image URL would be from our Google Drive. We're going to drag over the web content link so that we can actually download this file later on to generate our videos. POV scenes, we just have to choose the POV scenes folder. We're going to make sure that each individual image is actually linked to the sync. So this is super important for the record ID to match. So we're going to find the POV scenes that we have created for each of them. We're going to go into loop scenes, drag this over and paste this in. And then similarly, we're going to add a square bracket on the outside as well to make this an array. So why is this important is because if you go back to Airtable, we want to make sure that each image is connected to the correct scene. We don't want to have this image connected to the second scene or the third image connected to the fourth scene as well. This makes sure that it's connected correctly throughout the whole Airtable. Okay, and then the last one is the POV main. And this is where we're going to make sure to get the POV main record ID from the Airtable node. Over here, drag this and paste this in. And then we want to put the square bracket on the outside as well. And we should be good to go here. And then the final one is update Airtable. So notice from our first agent, you can see over here, we just want to make sure to match the correct scene. Okay, and then we want the status to be image generated. Now let's test out this specific workflow and see how this works. So we're going to test the image agent now. Go back to Airtable, go to automations, right? And we're just going to test this step by clicking onto run a script, test action. Okay, coming back, you can see it's now running perfectly for us, and it will generate the 7 different images for us and update into Airtable. And there you have it, your POV image agent. Alright, and there you have it. Going back to Airtable, open up your data. You can see this new field has been added in over here. We have all the images, If you click into them, we will download the images directly. And then if you open this up, you can see the image that we have created. Amazing. Open this up. And yeah, we do have the images that we have generated. So same thing here, if you're actually unpleased with the image, this is where our modular system actually helps us a lot. You can actually redo this whole system again, delete them, right? Change your POV main back to scenes generated, delete the images, and the agent will actually generate the image for you once again. And once it's done, this will actually trigger our next agent, which would be the video agent to generate the videos for us. Okay, now coming to the POV video agent, I hope you actually understand how the system works now. The rest of it will relatively be about the same for the initial part, so I'm going to run through them a bit more quickly. You can see it's usually a webhook, and then from there we actually trigger the whole workflow. And then the difference is that it's only going to be passing through a video generation process, if not it's a sound effect generation process as well. Alright, so now let's go into our video agent, right? And this video agent is where we're going to generate the amazing, beautiful videos for us. So you're going to start off with the very same thing as well. We're going to have a webhook over here, okay? And we're going to copy this specific link. Go back to Airtable. Make sure that this link is now in the generate videos automation. We're going to open the code, right? Open the code over here. Make sure to paste this link over here. Okay, finish editing. Make sure the trigger is also set for status is image generated and POV images is not empty. Coming back to n8n, same thing, we're going to get images over here using the Airtable node. This time status is image generated instead. Okay, and then the if node would be JSON status is image generated. Right, you can see the similarity over here. Same thing, get image URL. This time we're going to choose from POV content. This time we're going to choose from the table POV images, and the record ID will be JSON ID. So let's test this out and see what happens. Similar to scenes previously, we do have all the images and all the record ID over here. We can run through them so that we can actually use them to generate our videos. Okay, press back. We can go into loop images, same thing, batch size 1. Okay, get image for each scene. So you're going to play this, right? And you can see we do have the image URL for each scene this time. And this is what we're going to use to generate our videos, okay? The record ID, you can see over here, is the same. To drag over from loop images, paste this in, make sure to add in the square bracket on the outside. And the base will be from POV content, the table will be POV images, okay? All right, now we have this, we're going to create our video prompt generator. We open this up, we're going to give it some information. It's going to have the scene description, the theme, and the tone and mood. We're going to give it this 3 information to create the prompt for us. So you just have to drag over all of this from the previous view, okay? And this will be from the Airtable view earlier, right over here. Drag this over, and I want it to generate a video to animate this specific scene to life, okay? And then for system message, open this up. We're going to tell it that it's a video prompt creation agent. Right, its task is to create a concise prompt under 50 words that instructs the AI to provide a video with a clear first-person perspective. Right, and we give it some instructions: emphasize first-person POV, indicate visible body parts, include scenes details, theme and tone, and maintain visual styles. The input that it's gonna get, and then the output that we want from it, which would be to return the generated prompts in the following JSON format: the prompt, and insert detailed image prompt over here. And then over here we also have some examples below to showcase what we want as an output. Require specific output format, okay? And then we want to structure output parser. We want it to have a prompt as our final output, and the model will be using Queen as well. All right, let's play this and see what we get. Okay, perfect. You can see there is a prompt for our first image over here. Okay, so once we have the prompt, we're going to generate the video, and this time we're going to use Runway. Runway is an amazing video generator, so we're going to use the API from Runway for this specific generation. Of course, if you want to use any other video models as well, you can also search them up and just replace the API with the other models, and it will work exactly the same for this specific system. So that's what makes this system really scalable and modular for any other types of video generation as well. Now in Runway, we're going to go to dev.runwayml.com, okay? We're going to have to create our API key, and same thing, we do have to add in some credits, right? Once we have our API keys generated and we have some credits, we're going to go into this specific page, which is the documentation page for the Runway API. Okay, we're going to find the API reference, right? And we're going to use this curl over here, right? The model we're going to use is Gen3A Turbo, which is about 25 cents per video. All right, and so we're just going to copy this curl over here, go back to n8n, find a HTTP node, import curl, paste the command in, and then you should get something like this. Right, same for the credentials. What I like to always do is to create a generic credential type. We're going to choose header off. We're going to create a new credential. Okay, so create a new credential over here. We're going to call this Runway. The name, we're going to go back to the Runway API. You can see they want it to be in authorization bearer API key. So very similar. Go into n8n, authorization. Okay, I'm going to type in bearer, expression, and type in your API key, and you should be good to go. Okay. Alright, from here, you can see below, we do have specific headers. I want to make sure this is name X Runway version 2024-11-06. Alright, the latest model for now. And the send body, JSON type, specific body field. The first parameter is prompt image. This is where we want to put in the URL of the image we want to animate. So we just have to go into get image for each scene and find the URL and paste this in. Alright. The second one is prompt text. This is the prompt for animating the image. So we're going to look for the prompt that we have created from our video prompt generator agent and paste this in. Name, the model will be Gen3A Turbo, and depending on which model is the latest, when you're watching this, you can change that as well. Ratio is 7681280. This is for us to get the Reels ratio. We're going to connect many different 5-second scenes to generate our final video. Alright. And once this is done, you just have the test step and you'll be able to move on to the next step. I'm going to quickly run through the rest of it. So the next one you want to do is to have a wait node, right? I'm going to set the wait interval to about 60 seconds to maybe 2 minutes. Now this is important because video generation do take some time, so we don't want the workflow to crash along the way. We're going to give a buffer about maybe 60 seconds each time we generate a new video for us, so they can load perfectly and upload them into our Airtable. And next thing I want to do is to create another HTTP request node, and it's for us to get the video that we have generated. So the method will be get. The URL will be api.dev.runwayml.com/v1/task, and then we're going to have the JSON ID over here that we have generated from our previous HTTP node over here. Okay, and then from there we want to make sure the authentication is set accordingly as well, and we want to have these header parameters X Runway version, make sure it's the same as the one generated. Okay, and then the next node is the download video node. Same thing, we're going to have a get method, and this URL would be the JSON output from the previous node over here. And then we're going to upload the video and then upload it into Airtable. Same thing, the file name, get image item JSON name, get image for each scene. The input data field would be data from the previous node, and we want to update it to our Google Drive, which will be the POV video folder over here. Alright, go back to n8n, and lastly you want to make sure to update Airtable as well. So we want to create a new record in the POV video section. Go to data, videos over here. You're going to create new fields for this video, right? And so the video prompt will be from the video prompt generator, the video URL, the POV main, as well as the POV images. Make sure to link them accordingly. Same thing, the record ID with the square bracket as well. Okay, so to show you how this actually works, we're going to run this specific node. I'm going to run it once to show you the whole workflow and how I actually map them accordingly. Now that we have all the fields mapped up, we're going to test out this video agent now and see how it works. And so the last field you want to add into this video agent is this update Airtable node. Right, same thing, you want to update the POV main node. We want the ID to be matched and the status to be set to video generated. And so once completed, we should be able to see this status change to video generated. We have all the videos generated over here, as well as create a new scene over here as well. Right, previously we have tested one, so we're going to delete this. I'm going to restart this whole process and get 7 videos generated for us, and we're going to see how this works. So let's delete this previous field that we have tested earlier on. Okay, go back to POV main, make sure it's okay. Alright, now it's good. Go into automations, Okay, we're going to test this automation, test action over here. Go back to n8n, press back, and we're going to test out our video agent. Test action, and you can see it's running now. And by the end of this, we should be getting 7 videos generated for us, as well as an update to the Airtable status. So let's let the magic happen. Alright, and now that it's done, let's check out our Airtable. Go back to data, you can see all of these videos have been uploaded. Status have been changed to video generated. And let's check out videos. If you click into any one of them, you get to download them. And you should see the video. So it's pretty cool. Wow, okay, this is kind of like warping video. Pretty interesting. But yeah, you do get the video created for you, right? In different formats. So you can see over here. The next one. And you can see another POV video, pretty cool, right? So there you have it, all the videos uploaded into Airtable, and the video agent is completed. So we're just left with one more agent before we render all of them together, and this is the sound effects agent. And now sound effects are pretty crucial to make the POV video come to life, so I will be generating all the sound effects using AI as well. I'm going to run through a node all the way to here, so we get to see the mapping of all of it for us, and then we're going to run through them in the tutorial later on. Okay, after running through the workflow at least once, we'll be able to see the mapping of this whole workflow as we run through each node one by one, so it's easier for you to understand. Similarly, we're going to start off with a webhook as well. I'm going to open this up, HTTP post, copy this new URL this time, go back to Airtable, where I'm going to find generate sound effects over here, add in the new webhook to this specific code, and then the record needs to match videos generated and POV videos is not empty. All right, go back to n8n, same thing over here. This would be status equals to video generated this time from the POV content POV main list. This is to get the record ID of our video. The next one is a if node, same thing here, JSON status has to be videos generated. Okay, get scenes, right? We're gonna get the scenes from POV content this time, and we're gonna use the scene description to generate the sound effects for us. Split scenes, right? We're gonna split up the scenes once again. Okay, copy this from the POV scenes over here and paste this in. All right, and then loop over scenes. You know what to do. Batch size 1. All right. And then get scenes for SFX, right? This time, we're going to create another Airtable get record, and we're going to get the record ID, which will be from the POV scenes over here. And then make sure to add in the square bracket on the outside, okay? You have the output, which will be the description for each of the scene, and we're going to use this to generate the individual sound effects. All right, and then we're going to have our SFX prompt generator. Same thing, we're going to connect it to Queen, and we're going to give it a user message. He's going to get the scene description, the theme, and the tone and mood as well. Okay. For system message, open this up. This time it's a sound effect agent. Okay. Its task is to generate sound effects for us. And I do have some examples of sound effects prompts like creaking doors, soft footsteps, distant dripping, so on and so forth. So it will know what to create for us. The output prompt will be something like this over here. Right. Perfect. Also, you need to make sure it has required specific output format, structured output parser here to help us. The prompt, insert the detailed sound effects prompt here. Perfect. Okay. Now we're going to go into generate SFX, right? This time we're going to use 11 Labs, and 11 Labs is an amazing model for sound effects and voiceovers for AI. So we're going to go into 11 Labs. We're going to create an account over here. Okay, make sure you have an account, and make sure you do have the API keys. So you just have to find it over here, okay? And then once you are done with getting an API key, we're gonna go into the sound effects API documentation, and we're gonna find sound effects, post, create sound effects. We're gonna copy this curl over here, go back to n8n, open this HTTP node, import this curl, paste this in, okay? And then you should have something like this. Similarly, we can remove the header, and then we're going to add in our own authentication type over here, generic credential type, header off, create one for 11 Labs. If you go back to 11 Labs, you can see the API key will be xi-api-key, and then the API key, right? So to add that in, you just have to type in xi-api-key and then type in the value of your API key. And then once that is done, we're gonna go down, send body will be turned on, right? Body content type JSON, we're gonna use the field below. The text would be JSON output prompt, and this is the prompt for our sound effects. The duration will be 5 seconds. And so by now you should be able to see how API works. And if you go into 11 Labs, right, you can see over here, usually for any application that you want to use, you can just have to follow something like this over here. You can see the text is usually what it says for the prompts, and the information here is how the API key works. Make sure you use this as reference for any other future applications that you want to use. And once it's done, when you play this, you would get something like this. The output would be data, file extension in a binary format. And you know the drill. The next one is to upload it into the Google Drive. Just to give it a file name, I make sure that it's the name of the video once again, which would be this Dawn of the Desert Nomad. Paste this in, underscore the scene number, right? So you can see this is the example of what you will get. And then we want to make sure to put it into our sound effects folder. Okay, and then the operation is upload. And we want to update it to Airtable as well. Open this up. You can see over here, you want to update the base. The table will be POV SFX. We're going to create a new table, right? And then we're going to add in the prompt, which would be from our generate SFX over here. You're going to drag in the prompt, paste this in. The URL would be from the Google Drive link. Once again, web content link, right? I use web content link because it automatically downloads the content for me to use for other generations and other parts of my workflow. And POV main would be the record ID of the main file. Once again, very important. You want to make sure it links to the correct file. Okay, and then POV scenes, you want to have the record ID as well for scenes. And at the end of it, if you go back to Airtable, if you look, we run through one example earlier on. So you go to sound effects, you should have something like this, linked to the correct scenes, the correct main file, the URL over here as well. So we're going to delete these, and this time we're going to do all 7 of them in one go. Okay, so how do we do all 7 of them in one go? Of course, we're going to make sure the final node is completed, right? Update Airtable. We're going to update the record content main. The ID would be the record ID, right, from this POV file over here, this record ID. And then we want to have the status to sound effects generated. Okay, and now let's run this sound effects agent and see what happens. Test workflow. Okay, we're going to go back into Airtable, go into automations, make sure this is set correctly. All right. And then we're going to test action. Okay, and now it's running, and let's see the magic happens once again for us. Alright, perfect. Now it's completed. Let's go back to Airtable. Open this up. You can see it's uploaded the sound effects for us, and the status is sound effects generated. Go into sound effects over here. Alright, we can open up a few of them. You can see we do have the sound effects created for us. You can see this is the sound effects. Amazing. We do have all the necessary materials for us to generate our final render video, right? We do have the scenes, the images, the videos, and the sound effects. And so the last agent in our production system will be the render video agent over here, right? And this specific render video agent will render all of them into one final video for us for production. So for this render video agent, we're going to use a tool called Creatomat, okay? And Creatomat is an amazing tool that helps us create templates for our videos. So you just have to go into Creatomat over here, and we're going to create a template for the video that we want. So I've already created a template, so I'm going to run through with you very fast, but you can also create your own template as well. So I'm going to open this up, okay? You can see over here, I do have an editor below, and you can see these are the files that I have created. So I do have a format where I want it to be sort of like a text over here to sort of showcase the POV format, right? So I've created 7 different texts for the 7 different scenes, okay? And the 7 different texts will be used for the different quotes that we've created earlier on, right? And then 7 different videos, which are all spanned of 5 seconds over here. And I'm adding the animation of the blinking eyes. You can see over here the blinking eyes animation for each of them, okay? And then I have a track, which would be the sound effects over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 as well. So the important part for each of them is I want to make sure that they are dynamic. So these can be used for automation workflows, okay? And then for all the settings, you can actually set up over here. So depending on what you like, you can have the font to be in different sizes and so on and so forth, all right? And so to create your own template, you can add in different fields as well using the AI image over here, or text, any other files that you want. And to upload videos and sound effects, I use the upload file function over here to add them in. And once I get the template sort of similar to what I want for the final product, what I'll do is to click use template, and it will actually give me a full code that I can copy over into n8n later on, okay? And how you do that is to click use template, click API integration, and you will get a full code over here, right? And I just have to copy this curl, and I can use this later on, right? So we're gonna go back to n8n now. I'm going to show you the render video agent real quick. Okay, so what I want to do is firstly to also have a webhook node. I'm going to run through this once so they can actually see how it maps accordingly to each node. Let's play this once, all right? You can see it's running. And over here, you can see from the top, it's actually gotten the scenes from our Airtable. And then you'll get the videos from our Airtable as well, okay? And then you'll get the sound effects from the Airtable. What's going to happen here is merge it, and then it will render the video for us. And then we do have to wait a short moment. Okay, and then it will download the file and upload it to Airtable. Right, so let's go into Airtable and take a look. You can see over here, now it's set to materials upload, and the final render video is over here. Let's open this up and let's see what we get. Open this up, and you can see this is the final video render. We do have everything pieced together, so that's pretty cool, right? The text over here, the video, the sound effects, and the POV animation, yeah? All right, amazing. So how do we actually do that? Let's go through the whole workflow now. Okay. Starting off with the webhook link over here, we're going to copy this, go back to Airtable, go to automations, and we're going to render video, and just make sure this webhook link is connected to the code over here. The record has to match these conditions. Status is sound effects generated, POV sound effects is not empty, scenes are not empty, and POV videos is not empty. Right, this is to ensure that we have all the files required to generate the videos. Once this is done, we're going to have the Airtable node over here where we're going to search for the status, which is SFX generated, very similar to the other agents, right? An if node over here. And then from here, we're going to connect it to 3 different sections, right? What we want to do now, instead of generating a new video or generating new scenes or new sound effects, we want to get all the information that we have created earlier on from our Airtable, right? And so this is where storing in Airtable really comes in handy, right? We want to just retrieve all of them from here, as well as all of them from our Google Drive over here, all the images and files created in the folders. Okay, so coming back to n8n, right, we're going to create 3 different records over here called get record. And the first one would be getting the record from the POV scenes, and the record ID will be from Airtable over here. I'm going to drag this and paste this in, right? So we want to get all the scenes from this specific video that we have generated at the end. Same thing here, we're going to have the same thing for videos, right? But this time from the video list, we're going to get all the records from the POV video list over here for this specific video as well. And lastly, for sound effects, we want to get the same thing as well, okay? And then we're going to split them out, right? Each of them, we're going to split out the scenes because that's what we want. We're going to split out the videos, right? We're going to get from the previous node. We're going to split up the videos over here, and then we're going to split out the SFX as well from here. SFX, drag this and paste this in. Okay, once we get that, we're going to get the record for each of them. You can see over here now how this works. We're going to get record from the scenes, so we get the scenes description, and this can be used for the captions for our videos. Same thing here, we're going to get the records from videos, right? So we can get the video prompts, we can get the video URL, which is important for us to use for our video as well. Lastly would be sound effects, which is we're going to get a sound effects URL from the previous node as well, okay? And then what we're going to do is to merge them together because we need to be able to map all of them accordingly. So open this up, we're going to merge the view. We're going to choose combine, right? Combine by position, and we're going to choose number of inputs 3, right? And then that's where we're going to get all the views all merged together. And so because we split them up, we do have 7 different items. And to be able to map them, we do have to make them into one specific item, right? So to do so, we created a code node. Now, not to worry, this is still a no-code automation tutorial, right? So I actually asked ChatGPT to create this code for me. I want to be able to make all of them into one specific view so that I can map them over. So over here, I use a JavaScript code created by ChatGPT, okay? You can see how it works. I want the certain views to be able to map to Creator Mate for me to create my videos. The first one I still want is to actually still have the record ID, because along this workflow, we do need the record ID to make sure that we can update the correct Airtable later on, okay? So I have this field over here, output main record equals to item JSON POV main 0. And that's actually mapping to POV main 0. If you actually take a look over, yes, over here, right? So you can see over here, item JSON POV main 0 is to actually get the record ID from POV main. And what I actually do over here in this syntax, by saying output main record ID, I've actually created a record ID called main record ID, which is the record ID for the Airtable. And this so that we can actually link it back to Airtable and upload it into this specific tab over here, okay? Next up, we want to have items for each item index, because we do have 7 items split for the scenes, the videos, as well as the sound effects. I'm going to add in each of them one by one. Output scene I, which is for the different scenes, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, is the description, right? Which is the scene captions that we have created earlier on. Same thing for sound effects, which is a URL for the sound effects that we have generated. And lastly, it's video, which is video URL, which is the URL for the videos. And so at the end of it, we will get an output like this. We can see video 1, the URL, video 2, URL, sound effects 1, sound effects 2, scene 1, scene 2, all the way to scene 7 and video 7, right? And that's all we got to do to map them into our Creator Mate to generate the videos for us. So remember, when we go into Creator Mate earlier on, take a look over here. When we say we use template, right, and we choose the API integration, we just have to map all of them into the URL over here to generate a video in the exact template that we want, right? So if you go back to n8n, I'm going to find a HTTP node once again, okay? And then from here, we're just going to import curl, go into Creator Mate, and we're just going to copy this curl over here, and we're going to paste this in, right? After we paste this in, we will have something like this. Same thing, we do want to create a credential for Creator Mate. Open this up, authorization, and then type in your API keys over here, okay? From there, we will have something like this over here, which is the JSON output, okay? We're going to open this up, right? And you can see over here, this is where I link all the different sources that I have created earlier on, right? So SFX1 source, you can see over here in Creator Mate, it's actually referring to the first sound effect, right? And that's where I connect it to the first sound effect file over here. And same for the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, 7, as well as the video URL. I'm going to map them over, and then I'm going to map the text over as well. Okay, and once this is done, we're going to close this. We're going to close this as well, and we should be good to go. And once you play this, you'll be able to render the video. I'll set a wait note as well, because rendering does take some time. So we set it to about 2 minutes to be safe, so that the render is completed before we download the video. Okay, and the next note will be a HTTP request to get the video. So the method is get. The URL will be json.url, which is the URL from the rendered video that we have created earlier on. And over here, you can actually preview the video. If you click view, you can see this is the video that we have created earlier on. Amazing. So once this is done, same thing, we're going to upload to Google Drive. Right, we're going to search for POV render file this time, and then give it a name. And I'll give it the name as the record ID this time around. Okay. And then I'm going to update it to Airtable. So update Airtable this time instead of upload. I'm going to choose the ID, which is the main record ID that we have created from our code node earlier on. If you scroll down, you can see over here in the code node, we do have the main record ID, right? And then we're going to use the final render video as the Google Drive created link, web content link over here, and the status is materials uploaded. And just like that, you will have a final video generated for you like this. Alright, perfect. And all of this will be stored inside your Airtable over here, and your video generation system has been completed. And so you have been testing this out a lot in this tutorial, but once you're ready for it to be in production mode, you can actually turn this on to active, right? And then for all the webhook link, you just have to change this to production URL, okay? Replace all the automation links over here with the production URL link. If you open this up, right, replace this with the production URL link, okay? And then you just have to turn all of this on. And once that's on, you automatically run all of the agents without us having to say anything. For example, once the ideal agent has sent the example to us via Telegram, once you've approved it, right, what's going to happen is all of this agent will start getting to work. The scenes agent will run its scenes, and once it's done, it will automatically trigger the image agent, and then it will trigger the video agent, and then the sound effects agent, and all the way to the render agent, and all of these will be created for us on Airtable. Now, once it's completed, the next step I want to do is actually a manual step from our end, right? So you can see over here, this is set to materials upload. But let's say we're actually happy with the final video that we have generated. All we got to do from our end is just to change the status to ready to upload. And this by itself is set to trigger the final agent, which is our publish video agent, which will help us publish this video into all the different platforms like Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Okay, same thing here is that you're going to go down to the final part of our workflow, which is this publishing agent. Now, I've actually created a previous video on how to create this whole publishing agent. If you want a detailed guide on all the APIs, do check out my previous video over here where I show you step by step on how to connect the APIs to each of these different platforms. But now coming back here, once you're happy with the video that's generated, we also want them to be automatically published, right? We're going to create this new agent with a first node, which is a webhook node as well. Open this up. I'm going to copy this link. Go back to Airtable. Make sure to add into our final automation for published video. Okay. Run a script, open this up, and make sure to add in the URL over here. And then for the trigger, it's going to be when status is ready to upload and final render video is not empty. So this is so that we have a video to actually upload to these different platforms. Coming back to n8n, we're going to search the record over here. And I'm going to have a publishing agent, which will generate all different descriptions for us for Instagram, YouTube, and Facebook. And then it will actually create this output in a structured output parser like this, where we have Instagram description, YouTube title description, Facebook title, and description. Right, from there, it's going to download the video for us, and then it's going to send it to YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and then publish the video for us at the end of it. I'm going to test out this workflow to show you how we can get our final video published to all our different platforms. So now coming back to Airtable, we're going to test this action. All right, and this should trigger our publishing agent. And now it's going to post the video for us onto YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook with the description created by the publishing agent himself. All right. Okay, now that it's done, let's check out our Facebook page to see what happens. Let's refresh this. Okay, let's go back to our page. You can see over here the new video that we have just created has been uploaded with a description created just for it. And let's go into Instagram to see it as well. Let's refresh this. Okay, let's go into our Instagram page, and you can see the new video has been uploaded here as well with the description as well as the hashtag. Amazing. And then on YouTube, we're gonna have the final video generated as well. Let's check out our test page, and you can see over here we do have the final video generated for us with description and title as well. And there you have it, a full AI agent team that works for you in every single part of the video production, from scripting, generating videos, generating sound effects, all the way to publishing the videos for you. And the possibilities are really endless from here, and you can use this template to scale up and actually do other types of videos that you want to create for yourself as well. And so I know this is a long one, so if you have any doubts along the way, do repeat the video again to really understand more. And so if you really want to learn more about AI agents and have more support and understand how I built this whole workflow from scratch, do sign up to my AI agents community link in the description below to really get ahead with AI agents. Till then, I really appreciate you, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.